We're the Coal Guys. I'm George.
And I'm David.
Today we're back with Kerry Powers. It seems like this is 3 years in a row now, but probably our fifth podcast with her, the president of the Irmo Chamber of Commerce. And we couldn't be more happy to have her back on to talk about plans for this upcoming year and also what's going on within the chamber and our community. Welcome, Kerry.
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
This episode is brought to you by Dick Dyer Mercedes-Benz, the first Mercedes-Benz in South Carolina.
So you were our very first guest.
Yes. You're muted.
Sorry about that. So you were our first guest 2.5 years ago. I mean, it's crazy to think that this little idea of a podcast that a friend of ours put a bug in our ear about has turned into something that's, for George and I have been, rather changing, really beneficial to us in our real estate practice and whatnot. But, so thank you for being our first host and helping us kind of get kickstarted. But you've also brought us some great people to talk to and interview on here. And, so it almost feels like you've had a huge role in kind of launching, what's, become fairly successful for us.
It's been fun to watch you guys grow in your brokerage, and it's been super cool to watch George kind of grow up. He's like a grown man now, so that's like so cool. And David, you and I have had just an incredible year at the chamber with your chairmanship. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to come and just gab with you guys for a little while.
Yeah, so let's talk about the chamber because I don't think, a lot of people understand what a chamber of commerce is, what it does, what its purpose is. We still come across that with our own members. So, just refresh our audience, like what's our purpose? What do we do there? What's the value of joining an organization like that?
So we are the voice of the business community. All chambers of commerce are voices of their business communities, and all chambers are different. We are private, nonprofit. We are not affiliated with our municipalities, but we do work very closely with the town of Irmo. A lot of folks think that like I work for the mayor. I do not. I love him, but I don't work for him. And so
He probably thinks you work for him too.
he probably does, but that's okay. We try to work very closely together, but we're here as to advocate on behalf of the business community. We're here to provide educational resources. We're here to provide a liaison between local, state, county, federal government officials. And, I have a background in marketing and print and broadcast media. So I think I do a pretty good job of helping a lot of our smaller businesses figure out how to get the word out about what it is that they're doing and connecting them with the right people. I always tell people that like my cell phone's the most like valuable thing in the world because of all of the contacts I have in here. So if you need to be connected with somebody, I'm the person to do that for you.
The connecting with people has continued to get easier just at the speed that the chamber's grown since you've become the president. Could you share just how many businesses are a part of the chamber and how much it's grown through the past few years?
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this before, but 2020 was a banner year for us. And I like to think that the chamber became an essential business during 2020. And, I shuttered up the chamber house and, for 28 weeks, we didn't do anything other than the social distancing craziness that they told us to do, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But, we've pretty much doubled our partnership in the 9 years that I have been president of this chamber. And so we're a medium-sized chamber. We're at the 500 mark. And, we have goals to grow that by leaps and bounds over the next 5 years. And, we just keep outgrowing everything. We've outgrown our chamber house. I think we're growing at the same pace as the town. So it's kind of cool.
And so this is a special year because the chamber celebrates 30 years being in existence, which, seems like a long time, but then I do the math and realize when I graduated from the University of South Carolina, it still hadn't been formed, which doesn't make me feel very young. But we've had 5 chamber presidents in that 30 years. You have served, this is your 9th, going on your 10th year. Really the great success that we're seeing from the chamber, I attribute to your leadership, because truly, as I've been in the Columbia area, I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of people, but even the politicians that we know who seem to know everybody, I don't know anybody that knows as many people in the Columbia region as you do. You are the most networked person, bar none, in this area, between your chamber work, your work with the Rotary Club in Columbia, the work with the Optimist Club out in St. Andrews, Irmo, that George and I have the privilege of joining you there with, and your role in what we want to talk about later with Leadership Lexington County. I mean, there's not a politician, there's not a law enforcement person, there's not a city official that I don't think you've got their name. And you joke about losing your phone. I would think that somebody that found your phone, and if they've ever got into it, would be like, "Oh God, who is this person?"
Yeah,
It's the governor's phone.
I definitely credit my my civic work with a lot of the growth that we have had at this chamber. People will say to me all the time, they're like, "Kerry, you're involved in everything. You're so busy. You're in everything. I see you everywhere." But I'm very intentional about the organizations that I partner with, because it has to benefit the chamber in order for me to give my time and talent. And, I always tell people, and David, you're in Columbia Rotary Club with me. I've been in that club for a very long time. I'm a past president. That club taught me how to run this chamber, because when I joined that club, we were in the dark ages. Like, we didn't even have a website or anything like that. And I had to learn how to do all of that. And I had to, I went through all of the board training and all of the things that you have to do to move up the ranks in Columbia Rotary. And it was very parallel to what I was learning to do here at the chamber, because I was hired during that time here. So, and then I got involved with the Optimist Club when I first started at the chamber. And as you know, that is a love, and it's a labor of love sometimes, but it's definitely a love of mine. I fell in love with that club and all the people in it. And, but that benefits the chamber as well. The partnership with them, what better way to partner up with people than to see the work that they're doing here in the Irmo community and to be a part of that. So, and I know we're going to talk about Leadership Lexington, but I try to be very intentional with my time and talent to make sure that, this is my job. I'm not a volunteer, so anything I do has to wrap up and benefit the chamber as well.
So I want to reflect on that just a little bit, because you talk about being intentional with where you put your time, but you don't just put your time. You're one of these people that joins and then gets involved and leads. And, I can't point to that example, strongly enough that you're just not somebody that becomes a member, right?
Yeah.
You get active, you put yourself in there. And, I think it's great, for somebody like George who sees that, we got him involved really young in the Optimist Club, and what, George, you graduate next December? Is that when, you matriculate?
December.
Yeah, well, there's a board seat with your name on it at the Optimist Club coming up.
I agree.
But, talk about that. Why do you choose not to just be a member of something?
So for me, if I just use the example of becoming, I was the fourth woman to ever lead the Columbia Rotary Club. I was the 101st president. So there are a lot of people ahead of me who kind of paved the way, right? I had no idea what I was doing until I became the president of the chamber. I had really never been in a leadership role in an organization because, I was working at free times and it was just a different environment. So I looked at it two ways. Number one, I felt like I could make a very big positive impact. And I saw things that were being done that, maybe could be done differently or that I could put a spin on and maybe it would be better for the next president. But I also look at it as like a huge learning experience for me. Like you really can't go somewhere and learn how to run an organization unless they just throw you in the deep end of the pool and tell you to swim, which is pretty much what happened to me at Columbia Rotary. And it's amazing to see all the people that kind of wrap their arms around you and they say, well, you're doing a great job. When I was president, I did it this way. And then I'm like, well, gosh, you know what a great idea. Maybe I should consider that. So every single interaction that I have with people in the club or the organization, I learned something from them and it makes me better. Frankly, it makes me a better chamber president. And I'm a control freak, like a massive control freak. And that's just how I am. And I'm not going to apologize for it.
But you do have one person you can at least delegate to, Ginger. So I guess talk about her importance in the chamber and how that's also helped the chamber grow, having a second person who you can rely on.
Oh my gosh, we have the most fun. I am truly blessed. When I was hired, one of the things that our previous president had said to me when she hired me, she said, you're going to have to win over the ladies. We have Ginger and Miss Jeanette. Miss Jeanette is, she was the second president of the chamber and she still volunteers with us, thank goodness. But, we all became instant, fast friends and we all have the same mission. We want to see this chamber grow and we want to see this town grow. So the success of that is dependent upon, us being able to bring in volunteers and us being able to sort of challenge this business community to do good work here. And Ginger is an absolute master at planning an event. I mean, she brings a level of class. She brings organization. She's got a really interesting background. She worked for Governor Campbell and, so she was doing events in the governor's mansion and things of that nature. So, I think that she just provides a whole another layer and we're close, but we're very different people. And so we, just when you go to work with somebody that you enjoy working with every single day, it doesn't feel much like work,
Yeah, I totally agree. When you surround yourself with different people, but people you really get along with, it makes all the difference in the world. And
it just creates a culture that people are drawn to. And I think people are drawn to me and Ginger specifically, like our culture. I think that's what they love.
Well, I mean, take your coffee talk event as a testament. Like, how many people get up on Tuesday morning and regularly come to any other event like they come to, the Greater Irmo Chamber Coffee Talk? I
Yeah.
mean, there's 80 to 120 people easily there every single Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And the 80 ones are when there's a holiday or something like that coming up and people need to be elsewhere.
Right.
So, that, and I'm sure, we have an event coming up tonight, I'm sure is going to be packed with people there again, just because there's this culture of inclusion and friendliness, and, people don't clump together. Everybody's friends with everybody and gets to know everybody. And that's just one of the magical things that I think you've accomplished within the chamber that is rarely replicated in other organizations.
It's important. People need to feel welcomed or they're just not going to come back. I mean, I've been an extrovert my entire existence. You can ask my mother. I was literally the one that was in trouble and got silent lunch every day because I couldn't keep my mouth shut in class. Right. And, but there's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable in, walking into a room like Coffee Talk, or walking out on the patio when we've got, karaoke night going on. And, if you can just make that person feel welcome for just a few minutes so that they can get a little bit of confidence about them, they're going to come back and then they're going to develop themselves even more. And I mean, I know you've seen that happen over and over, and it's important.
There are a number of people that I think credit their evolution, I'll use that word, to their participation in the chamber and the environment that you create. So, but let's move on a little bit and talk about your involvement with another organization that I had the pleasure of participating in last year, and which is Leadership Lexington County. You've been involved with them for a number of years now, going on 8, 9 years almost.
I graduated in 2016 and I have been on the board since 2020, and I will be the chair next year.
So again, you're stepping into a leadership role. To me, that's a program, particularly for young folks like George, that are incredibly talented, thoughtful, and, have the potential to have a huge impact on their community. So talk a little bit about what Leadership Lexington County is, what its purpose is, so that we can help kind of spread the word about that to help it become its, the potential that it has.
Yeah. So, excuse me. I was told when I was hired, I was told that I was the only chamber president in Lexington County that had not graduated from Leadership Lexington. And at the time that was absolutely the case. And so I applied and I got in, and it was a little bit of a different class back then. It was a little less structured than it is now. We had Miss Linda, who was our administrator, and she ran the program for 30 years. And now it's run by a board, and it's a little more structured than it was in the past. Excuse me. I got a tickle in my throat. But anyway, I graduated in 2016. It was one of the best experiences that I've done in my professional career. I met some of the most incredible people in my class, some of whom I'm still very close to today and work with at the chamber, or I work with them in other organizations. I always tell everybody it's literally the best network that you're gonna have, because it's people from all walks of life: government, law enforcement, private sector, state government, nonprofits. You're just going to meet people from all walks of life. And then the class project is, sometimes very eye-opening. You learn things about the county that you never knew. I moved to Lexington County in 2001, and but I always worked either in downtown Columbia or out in the Garner's Ferry area. And so the only time I was ever in Lexington was on the weekends and running errands with my kids. I mean, I really knew nothing about my county when I took over this chamber. So I went through this class, and as you know, I mean, you get to do some incredible like adult field trips, right? And at the time, we got to tour the dam and McMeekin Station, which was literally one of the coolest things I've ever done. I don't think they let us do that anymore since COVID, but, going out to Raw Farm and seeing how, the juxtaposition of the extreme rural area of Lexington County as compared to like the bustling downtown of downtown Lexington, right?
Yeah, and and I'll stop you right there just to say, who knew that we have the supplier of
Kale,
kale to Walmart
kale,
in
the worst
Helion.
vegetable ever.
But the supplier to Walmart is in Helion, South Carolina, and
Yeah.
just what a crazy big operation that they have.
Huge
That you just
economic impact.
yeah.
And all of the places that we visit, it's astonishing to see the economic impact that like CMC Steel and the Shaw Industries plant and Dominion and all of these institutions that are in Lexington County. I really got to learn how all of those work together, and how public safety work together. We got to go and watch um, the firefighters do their rescue out there at the EOC. And there's just so many cool things that we got to do. And my class actually was, we did the rehabilitation of the Village Square Theater in Lexington. And at the time, my youngest daughter was so involved in that theater, and to be able to say that I was on the team that raised so much money and put so much sweat equity into making that building better for all those kids. It was like, it's just something I'm so proud of. And so I've tried to stay as involved as I can. As there's an alumni program that they have. And so it's kind of cool to get together and see everybody. So I'm looking really forward to being chair next year. I think it will challenge me. It will challenge my patience for sure, because when you get that many chiefs in one room, it's a little difficult when you get so many chiefs in one room. But I think it's going to challenge me. I think it'll be a lot of growth, and I think it'll be a lot of really positive exposure for the chamber as well. So it's good.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. In fact, our class is getting together Friday night. I think we've rented out the chamber house, haven't we?
Probably. Yeah.
I think so.
Time.
I'm going to leave before everybody else does, so I'm not responsible for what happens after I leave with that group. But, talk about just great friendships. I mean, you get to know people in industries that you would never have guessed. Like, who knew the largest, manufacturer of like high-end fitness equipment is in Lexington County.
Right here. Yep.
Yeah. And one of the, top 5 saltwater boat manufacturers, Georgia's friends with one of the executive sons at Tidewater Boats. Who knew they were in Lexington County? So, what you learn and what you can relate, to people, because George and I work with a couple of companies where we help transition people into Columbia, and when just knowing those types of facts and details about this area, people look at it very differently, because I think people look at Columbia and still think it's this sleepy little state government town. We happen to have an Army base. Well, the Army base is pretty important. It's the largest basic training facility in the U.S., and you start mentioning all these other industries that are coming here and part of South Carolina. All of a sudden people wake up and like, oh, wow, you mean X, Y, and Z. And I'm sure, George at at PC has gotten to know it, its impact here in the Midlands with the kids that have graduated there and gone on to do things that just, we don't tell those stories enough.
Right. Right.
Especially for the limited population that South Carolina has, I think is what makes it even more unique. We're not like New York where there's just millions and millions of people, where you have New York City bigger than our entire state, but it really is like a community in of itself, South Carolina. And then Columbia, which is technically still a large city, at least where I'm from, in rural Pennsylvania. So I see it as a mega city, but just the impact that is able to be made. But I guess for the people who are starting to learn about Leadership Lexington and are taking interest to the conversation, is it an application process? Is it invite, or how are they, now they know about it, what's a way that they're able to start getting on the lookout to see how they can become involved with the club?
Yeah. So every October we put out a request for applications, so you can apply for the following year's class. We are currently, our board currently right now, applications have closed for the class of 2025. But if people are interested, they can go to leadershiplexingtoncounty.org, and they can be put on the mailing list so that they can be informed next year when we put the applications out. But you do go through an application process. And then you are given, you are assigned to a group for your interview. Interviews like 20, 30 minutes. We ask you some pretty specific questions. It really is very helpful if you do a little bit of research ahead of time and know what our program is, and sort of know a little bit about the county. Not a lot, just enough so that we know that you're serious about learning more. It is not a leadership training program. It is a leadership development program where leaders all come together and do something for the greater good of the county. So there's some folks that sign up and they think you're going to sit in John Maxwell classes for a year, and that is definitely not the case. There are hour requirements. So you have 8 class days, and you can only miss one. And then you have sweat equity hours and fundraising hours that you have to put in for your class project. And once you get all those hours, then we let you graduate in January. We have a nice little graduation ceremony, and you get a diploma and all of that. But it's like, here's my little diploma over here, and I'm like so proud of it. I love it. And I think a lot of people would definitely agree with me that it was just a great experience.
Well, and the kickoff, the first meeting that you go to in January is actually an overnight event.
Yeah.
And a lot of learning the first day, a lot of coffee and whatnot the next day, because I think some people went to bed like 4 a.m. our night, hanging out. But it's, but that's how relationships get formed, right? I remember like being a Boy Scout. We'd be out camping and you just stay up late talking around the fire, and that's how you develop, those deep friendships and connections with people that you just don't do in a 5-minute conversation when you see them once a month at other things.
Correct. Yeah, there's some people that we have to put air tags on so that we can locate them the next morning. Yeah, but the entrance retreat is definitely one of the most fun things that you really get to know. You get to know the people in your class, but you also get to see like who rises to the top as a leader, right? Because at some point by the end of that retreat, you're going to pick the chair of your class. And so you can kind of see all the different personality types. We do a DISC assessment with you. So if at the very least you'll come away from there knowing, whether you're a D or an S or an I or a C or whatever. But you just learn so much about your peers in that class. There's a ropes course as well, which, can be challenging. And so it's been kind of cool to watch the last few classes go through that and kind of compare it to my experience. And, you know, I would recommend it to anybody who's just looking to further their network and learn more about themselves.
Well, I'll say this, with you as chair of that board next year, I only expect good things, because everything you have touched that George and I have seen over the last several years just blossomed. You were the first female president of our Optimist Club, and we're the fastest growing Optimist Club in our area, district, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of that I attribute it to you, because you've brought in so many people. But again, you've worked to create a climate and a culture over your last year as president that people are kind of seeking us out to come want to participate and join in. I don't know, maybe George can speak a little bit, to kind of what he's gotten out of it from that respect.
Definitely. I think it brings a new light to the community, at least from my perspective, because I guess to put it from where I was, when I first joined the Optimist Club, I didn't necessarily know what was going on in Irmo. It was still in that learning phase about the chamber and also about the Optimist Club. So you don't really understand how big of an impact you can make until you join a club like the Optimist Club, where it's affecting multiple organizations all at once, whether it's the fundraising going on, or else it is working the tree stand or other events, including, and I'm going to blank on the name of the house where Roger has it set up, where we go occasionally. But giving back to, correct, yeah, but giving back to people in different ways like that, it's allowing me to at least see how other people are how their lives are in our community, and that there really is so much room to give back and continue to grow.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and I guess, George, what has that done working with like other students at school? Because I know you're now working on this whole student athlete internship program, but what is your volunteering in the community and seeing that impact done to encourage you to do that in other places?
It just makes me look at things with a lot more mercy and compassion, and being understanding that not everybody had the upbringing that I had. And so I was put in pretty good situations to, whether it was like getting into school or working, that allowed me to afford some of the opportunities I had immediately at a younger age. And a lot of these people are still starting to find opportunities on their own. And if I have the possibility to give back in a way that allows them to have some of the opportunities that I've already had, I'm more than happy to do it, because I know that I was lucky in that sense. So I definitely, like, the Optimist Club has allowed me to see that and now go out on my own a little bit, whether it's at PC or through different organizations, and give back in that sense.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about?
I want to talk about you, Mr., and your leadership abilities as well. If you'll just allow me to for a mere moment.
Okay.
So most people don't. So I work for a board right here at the chamber, and most people don't know that I get a new boss every January. Like, when I tell people that, they just kind of glaze over and stare at me like, what? But we had a big year this year. The chamber invested in a strategic plan. We have not had a strategic plan since 2014. And boy, were you the right person to be at the helm, to be chair of the board, because we have made so much progress this year towards that strategic plan. But I think that your education background was, you were able to take that strategic plan, which was, probably a little bit difficult to put out in front of 23 people sitting in a boardroom and saying, these are all the things we have to accomplish. It was like a big soup, and you were able to extract everything that was important from that strategic plan and put it in a format that was easy for us to follow along, and will be easy for us to follow along for the next 5 years. And I think you have like 3 more years left on the board, don't you?
Well,
I think you have another term that you can be.
I have my year as past president, and then it's up to it's
Yeah,
up
then
to the
it's up
board
to
whether or not they want me to sit
right,
out a year or continue serving.
right.
Um,
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But your dedication to this chamber, George, I just hope you're like paying attention to how the impact that he has made. Rarely missing an event. If ever if ever I need to clone myself and be somewhere to be someplace at the same time, like I don't even have a second thought about saying, "Hey, David, can you stand in for me at this place? I've got to be at this place because I know you're going to do a great job." But your level
but
of professionalism, your your intelligence, all of the things that you bring to the table has made such a huge positive impact on the operations of this chamber and the future of this chamber. So I just wanted to say thank you.
well, it has been it's been a real pleasure because I've been in Columbia now for 4.5 years after transitioning out of the world working and at the time consulting to public education, but I'll just say out of public education into kind of starting a second career in real estate. And, was fortunate enough to have landed over at, my cousin's real estate brokerage who was a member. And, she's like, well, they've started this little thing called Coffee Talk, and just showed up with her, and really that it was obvious, all the things we've already talked about, just how welcoming everybody is, and just how warm everybody is, has played into me wanting to get involved, and saw the potential of being involved. And then even more so now, as having stepped away and having been fortunate enough to have somebody like George kind of follow along and say, hey, let's go do our own thing, and because we wanted some room to run. And so it makes it worth it. I'm not somebody who, the only time lately I can say I've kind of like sat in the background was in my Leadership Lexington class. There were 36 of us, and it just became, real quick. There were some people that really wanted to be in charge, and fine, let them. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to be and practice being an indie. I won't use that term. Practice being a follower and not a leader.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I don't want to get politically incorrect these days. But but just having those experiences, and then I feel like it's just really funny. Everything that I've done up until this, right, just has kind of culminated in being able to provide some leadership to the chamber this year that really I hope has had a huge impact, because I see the Irmo community outside of Columbia as one that has a lot of running room and a lot of potential, just because of the people that live in that community and are trying to lead in that community right now. It could be hugely impactful and very positively impactful over the next decade or two. So, it's going to be fun to watch, but it's fun, like helping start planting the seed of that next generation of people in that community, like George, and let him get involved and see the potential of, well, this is why you do something like this. Because I don't, people in Columbia drive by the Kenneth Schuler cosmetology school and they know it. But we've had the opportunity through the Optimist Club to get to know Ken Schuler. And I tell you what, at some point, I hope I can say I've been a member of something for 53 years.
I know. And to be such an incredible person. Oh my gosh.
And to just give and give and give. And you would never know that if you weren't a member of that Optimist Club, and get to hear Ken's story and the impact that he has. So, I feel like I haven't given enough sometimes, just because of how much I feel I have been blessed because of the work that I've done with the chamber and through the chamber. So, I just, if there's any reason, if you ever need anybody to convince somebody to join, just tell them to call me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
I'm happy to. And, there's, again, just, serving on it at two levels, because really the board of that chamber, is one level, and then you've got everybody else at all the other events. And, but in both places, it's just fun to be a part of it, fun to give to it. I don't mind the time it takes away from my core business at all, because it's something that's necessary, I think.
And
So
hopefully, the relationships that you're building through your work at the chamber will translate into relationships that you have through Exit Realty New Horizons, because I know that the two of you have been working really hard this year. We've just got a lot of big things going on in our community, our big community. And I know you both have been working really hard to help facilitate some of those people coming into our state. So
yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I just, so I got a call back, was it April? And it was from one of my clients that we've been working with for 2 years to find them a lake house.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Good luck with that.
It's a
And I
common
love,
theme for
and I
us.
love, well, listen, they're great friends. I love them to death, and they are huge advocates for George and I. But I get this call. She either called or texted on a Sunday afternoon and said, "Hey, there was a car driving around my neighborhood. And I just stopped them while I was out walking, asked them if they were looking for a new home, and I just, they said they were, and I asked them, do you have a realtor? And they're like, no. And she's like, well, here, call my guy." And lo and behold, an hour or two later, I heard from these folks, and she didn't know it, and I didn't know it until after meeting with him. And, we were looking at houses, I think the next weekend or two after that. But this person was, coming to scout, what at that time was a total corporate headquarter transfer from one city in the western states, to Columbia, South Carolina, because of, some other economic development that was going on here in the Columbia area. And, so not only all of a sudden is it like, well, are we helping, this family find a home and get them settled in the Columbia area, but, working with their business to facilitate that. And because of the chamber, because of who we knew both at the University of South Carolina and at the State House and in the county economic development office, started putting this person in touch with all of these people, to facilitate the move of their company. Because honestly, he's like, we haven't even reached out to these people yet. And I'm like, well, you need to, because the size operation that you're talking about moving here, they're going to put incentives in your way, to make it attractive for you to be here. And I truly credit everybody I've met through the chamber that became a part of that process, that helped facilitate that. And now, we've got that first family settled in here, but because of the industry that they're working in, it's slowed down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because some of it's directly related to the electric vehicle market. But we introduced them to, a startup here in Lexington County that you've had as a speaker at the chamber, Future Fuels.
Future Fuels,
and
yeah.
We've introduced them, and, they were working on a partnership with, product that, my guy, we just got moved here, that they needed to go into the solar field. At Future Fuels, and kind of diversify a little bit from just the car charger market that they were, really trying to do. And that little company is growing. There are good things happening with them that George and I went and met with them, back this summer. as soon as some things kind of settle out with them, we'll be working with them because they're going to be hiring more employees, and they're going to be, potentially expanding their office and distribution facilities. So, again, it's just that network of, who you can meet in the chamber that, just gives you opportunity to put your foot forward and say, hey, I can do this for you, and do it in a way that, really welcomes people into the area. And in fact, another opportunity that we have, that we're still trying to get started up with another very large organization. One of the selling points for them was this podcast. Was the fact that, George and I have taken the time to develop content around living in the Columbia area that people can learn about living on Lake Murray with Bill, because of our interviews with Billy Chastain, or learn about the Chamber of Commerce through talking with you, or, we've talked to people from the zoo. We've talked to people from the, South Carolina Historical Society. Nathan Ballantyne's getting ready to join us in a couple of weeks on our podcast, one of our state representatives, to talk about him, and just, the list goes on and on. I mean, if you look back over who we've had on this podcast, it's kind of like, whoa, it's an impressive list of people that allow us to champion the community in a way that other people in our industry just, we just found a unique way to do it, and it's paying off for us. And so, circle back around. You were our very first guest, and we should say we owe it all to you.
I think it's fun to do these and just sit and chat about stuff. There's a friend I go to church with, and he finds it fascinating, this world that I live in. You live in it a little bit, being involved in the chamber. George, I have a feeling you're going to be involved in it for a long time. But, when you live in this world and you interact with all of these different kinds of people, I don't know what I would do if I just worked in one specific industry. You know what I'm saying? I've literally, in my whole career, I've never had a job where, like, I had office hours, or, I have always come and go as I please. And I was always maybe judged on my merit or my revenue generation. So, I don't know what I would do if I was only meeting like one kind of people, like one industry of people every single day. That would probably like not be the best for me, because I one of the things I love about this job, and I'm sure it's the same way for a realtor as well, no day is the same. And just because your calendar says your day is going to be one thing, that doesn't mean that it's going to end up being that way. Yeah. So,
no, I think you're right. I and George can probably, chime in on this too, that I don't think there's any in real estate like your job. Real estate crosses everything, right?
Yep.
You got to buy. Some people want to buy a place to put their business in. Everybody, wants to buy something to call their own as a home or a farm, or, or a vacation house or whatever. So we get to be involved with so many different people. It's fascinating. And, I'm going, the guy I was talking about that's, getting ready to move, not all of their company, but a portion of their company in a few months here. We're having dinner tomorrow night, and talk about, what's happening, what's going on. But, we've also gotten to be friends on a personal level. So it's just, it's those relationships that you get to build and understand that, like, George can pick up the phone and call Nathan Ballantyne if you want to. I know Nathan would answer the phone and treat George like any other adult in this world. But
after he talked to him about his football stuff, that's what he would talk to him about first.
Way to clarify.
That's what he really cares about, is how well he's playing football.
Well, you ought to ask him about his trip to South Korea this summer. So,
I thought that was
and
one of the coolest optimist meetings we've had yet is George, you standing up and telling us all about your trip to South Korea. That was incredibly enjoyable, and what an awesome experience.
Definitely. It was insane, and I guess is the best way to put it. But I was glad that I was able to sum it up into words that made sense to everybody.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
so, well, we have been at this for 50 minutes now.
Ooh.
So I just, I'll just say again, Kerry, you have been a blessing to us, both before and after Exit Realty New Horizons, but particularly with the podcast. Thank you we'll have you back on next year for sure, just to keep, promoting whatever we can do to help promote the Irmo community through the Chamber or Leadership Lexington County with you. And, just thank you for believing in us.
Absolutely. I just think the world of you guys. So, George, I hope you have a good rest of your semester at school, and we'll see you over Christmas break. And David, I'll probably see you at karaoke this evening.
We will see you at karaoke. No costume. I don't think I've got time to go home and change before, but
Well, I have mine.
You have your. Yeah,
I have
don't
mine.
think George.
The bad witch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just so you know, George, Ginger was the good witch this morning. Carrie was the bad witch.
Yeah. Came prepared.
So
Thanks, guys.
all right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks again. We're the Cola guys. I'm David.
I'm George.
And just thank you, Kerry. Take care, and we'll be back with you, I'm sure, very, very, very soon.
Is sponsored by Bell Carrington, Price and Gregg. Bell Carrington is our choice for the best real estate attorneys in town. They are highly communicative and make sure that the closing process is as smooth as possible. With offices in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, they can handle any of your real estate, finance, eminent domain, financial services litigation, and litigation needs. Call their Columbia SC office today at 803-509-5078.